it's that time of year again. Not autumn, I mean the top 16 are finally going to be here next week. After an amazing regular season of Battlebots, we had amazing moments from the fights, behind the scenes, and of course, the fight cards as well. I mean, look at that main event. So, Battlebots on their website have displayed the program synopsis for the next episode. So the top 16 are going to be picked, and then the brackets was going to start. And in an unprecedented move, the selection committee has done something you'll have to tune in to see. So basically, there's probably going to be another Last Chance Rumble, which is interesting. I really liked the Last Chance Rumble last year. So after the regular season, we have 4 machines on 4-0, and they will definitely be getting the top 4 seeds, I imagine. So we have Witch Doctor, Deathroll, Hydra, and Bite Force, the reigning champion. Then we've got plenty of robots on the 3-1. These are robots with a strong chance of making the top 16. Some of them probably won't make it though because of the fights that they've had and who they've had to fight. Some robots have had harder matches than others. And then we've got about a third of the field on 2-2. Oh my god, you're all so average. Actually, that's a lie, they're not just on 2-2. There's a few irregular fight records in there, or some missing fights that we don't know what happened. So we know Black Dragon is going to be there already because they came through the Desperado tournaments. They will still have to be seeded accordingly. They were pretty impressive. I imagine they'll get seeded quite high, higher than Lockjaw was last year. So we have this very, very professional looking official Battlebots tournament bracket. It's just something that I found off the internet. So I'm going to be choosing my top 16 for the Battlebots 2019 tournament, and then we're gonna use these hypothetical top 16 robots to make hypothetical top 16 matches, so we'll eventually get a hypothetical winner. So the first seed, obviously, I'm going to pick is the reigning champion Bite Force 4-0, with the wins against Yeti, Bronco, Hypershock, and the other one, Monsoon. Yes, so it's not been plain sailing for Bite Force. They did come quite close to losing against Hypershock, but their other wins were pretty dominant, and they're the reigning champion, so it just makes sense. The second seed I would choose is Witch Doctor. Now, they were really, really impressive, much more impressive than last season. They've really fixed up their weapon, and it sent things into the ceiling. It chucked gigabytes really, really high, turned over Captain Shredderator. I think I've already... Whiplash is the other one. I've forgotten who the other robot was that it for. I have terrible memory. It'll come back to me. But Witch Doctor is the second seed because they've been killing everything in their way. I think they've... their weapon was a bit unreliable. But they can use their wedge as well, as they did against Gigabyte. And I just think they're really impressive. They've really improved. I think they've got a really good chance of winning this whole tournament. So they're the second seed. Then we've got the third seed, one of the other machines on 4-0. We've got Hydra, the hydraulic flipper from Team Waiachi. It's a really, really interesting design. Only Team Waiachi and Battlebots know how it works. It's a bit of a mystery. Anyway, what we do know is it can chuck Bronco out of the arena and just about anything else. It's really, really powerful. It's quite quick and manoeuvrable. And the wedges stop anything from getting underneath it. It has a really, really low ground clearance. So, they didn't get the hardest of matchups. They got Petunia, Free Shipping, Warhawk, and Bronco. It's not an easy fight card. I just don't think it was as hard as Witch Doctor, who got a lot of big spinners, essentially. So, Hydra are going to be third. That's still really not bad. For a new robot, it's amazing. Then we have Deathroll at number 4, the first machine to reach 4-0 this season. They were really, really impressive. They KO'd Foxtrot in a couple of hits. Obviously took out Endgame. The other 2 robots, which I have forgotten. Rotator, that was one of them. And so basically they've been wreaking havoc against absolutely anything that moves. So I think that they are more impressive than some of the 3-in-1 bots who could have sneaked into the top 4 had Deathroll not had such impressive wins. But it did, and we also know that it is extremely durable. Against Endgame, it got bounced around the whole arena. It didn't break, it continued, and that's why Deathroll gets the number 4 seed. So, the number 5 seed, I would give to Whiplash because of their impeccable driving this year. They took a loss to Witch Doctor. I just remembered that now. So they are 3-1, but I think they're the most impressive of the 3-1 bots because they're a really young team. They have quite a small vertical spinner compared to the rest of the field, but they do also have a lifting arm which they can use to great effect, and they can take on most opponents, and they've taken out Son of Waiachi and Texas Twister, and those are very, very powerful machines. And I think Whiplash has just been really, really impressive in general. Great driving from Matt Vasquez, and that's the main thing about Whiplash. It will outdrive you pretty easily. So that's why Whiplash gets the 5th seed. For the 6th seed, I've chosen Son of Waiachi. Because it's Son of Waiachi. It's a former champion. Many, many, many years ago it was champion. It's really, really destructive. The weapon takes up half of the weight of the whole robot, which is amazing. It's been making lots of robots do gymnastics on the screws. So that's Texas Twister and Kraken. And so they've just been tearing things apart. They took a loss to Whiplash, they got flipped over, but even before that they managed to tear Whiplash's front armour off, which is still pretty impressive. So Waiachi's Team Waiachi's second machine in the top 16, if this were to be true. Then for the 7th seed, I'd pick Will Bales and Hypershock, the vertical spinner. Very, very similar to Bite Force in many ways, except quicker, and I think better driven. He won the Best Driver Award of 2016, and so I think that it's not as impressive as, say, Tombstone when it wins, but what was really impressive about his wins was how quick they were. It beat Monsoon and Valkyrie in a matter of seconds each time, and I think that's what's giving it the 7th seed. Yeah, it's the power it has to KO things really, really quickly. It had a lucky win against Breakbox, and it nearly took down Bite Force in the main event of a few episodes ago, and that's very, very impressive. So Hypershock in general has just been greatly improved since last season, and I can see them doing well. For the 8th seed, I'd pick Tombstone, and I can hear the fanboys booing already, but you have to take into account it did take out Lockjaw and it did take out Sawblaze, although Sawblaze was bullying it across the arena until the Pulverizer hit it and Tombstone managed to catch an edge. They took a loss to Rotator, obviously they blew up in that fight, and against Gruff it was really, really close. I would have picked Gruff for the win if I was the head judge. So Tombstone, in my opinion, should be on 2-on-2, but they did manage to cause quite a lot of damage to Gruff, and so they're still Tombstone obviously, so they did cause a lot of damage when they win, so the 8th seed seems fair. Then in the 9th seed, and for some reason bigger than all the other robots, is Black Dragon. So they came through the Desperado tournament, obviously. I don't know why. They were 1-1 before the Desperado tournament, with a win against Bloodsport and a loss to Texas Twister, which they nearly won. So they came through the Desperado tournament. They took out Minotaur, Captain Shredderator, and Warhawk. Not in that order, but still they were really, really impressive with their Egg Beater. They did have to come through the Desperado tournament though. If they come through the normal season and had the 3-1 fight record, I would have ranked them higher. But obviously they had to come through the Desperado tournament. So then in 10th place I'd have Huge, because it's been really impressive this season. It's not perfect. Lots of teams are starting to find its weaknesses, I think. Although it seems more solid and more sturdy than last year. They've got wins against Jasper, Gigabyte, Bronco, and they took a loss to Son of Waiachi very early on in the season. But they are still really, really impressive. They've got massive vertical spinner, the HDP wheels, which should in theory stand up to spinners. So Huge, I think, is very well equipped to win the tournament. Then we have Railgun Max in the 11th seed, who I think should have gone 4-0. And if they did go 4-0, then I would have put them 5th, because their wins weren't against terribly competitive robots. But they should have won against free shipping. They lost, and for that reason I've had to compare their wins to the other 3-1 winners. For that reason they have dropped down to 11th. Still a ferocious egg beater weapon on that thing. They just need to make it more reliable for other competitions and Battlebots next year, if there's another Battlebots, fingers crossed. So they are the 11th seed. Then in 12th I have Scorpius, which I think would have gone 4-0 if not for a really lucky shot by Uppercut. They're really durable. They've taken on big spinners before. They've got that kinetic energy saw on top, which they can bring down like a hammer. They've won against Tantrum, they've won against Sidewinder, and they've won against Copperhead. 3 pretty decent machines. So Scorpius would be the 12th seed, and I think if they do make it, then they'd have a pretty good chance no matter who they face, because they're really quick and they're really well driven. The only machine that I think they'd have a bit of a problem against is Hydra, because of how low Hydra's skirts are. But other than that, Scorpius is really durable and should be able to stand up to the spinners in the tournament. For the 13th seed, surprisingly, I've gone for Sawblaze. Now, Sawblaze isn't a bad machine, it's really good actually. The reason that I've put Scorpius in front of it is that Scorpius has the power to KO robots more effectively. Sawblaze let Rotator and Blacksmith go to the judges. Obviously got destroyed by Tombstone. And their other win, I've forgotten who it was against. I'm great at my job, aren't I? So Scorpius has its KOs, Sawblaze also has its judges' decisions, which is why they're very similar machines, but Scorpius just gets in the lead for me. Then in 14th I have Yeti. Yeti it's a really good machine. Its schedule this year didn't really work in its favour. It had a match against the reigning champion Bite Force where it lost. It still put up a good fight though. They had a one-hit massacre against Rainbow, where they just, I don't know why they were fighting a robot like Rainbow. It's not a bad robot, they're just not in the same tier at all. It completely smashed Rainbow, set it on fire in one hit. Then they fought free shipping before that, which they took to a judge's decision, which could have gone to free shipping. I didn't actually watch that fight for some reason. But from what I've heard, free shipping could have taken that decision as well. And they had a win against Tantrum. And this, I think, is what has dropped Yeti down for me. Their win against Tantrum was a KO, but it acted more like a grinding drum than an impact drum. It didn't send Tantrum flying through the air once, and that's what I wanted it to do. And against Rainbow, it should have done that to Tantrum, and maybe it would have been higher, but Tantrum and Rainbow isn't the hardest of fight cards, and for that reason Yeti looked less impressive because of that. It's probably not, but for me it drops down to 14th. Oops. Then we have Lockjaw in 15th, and Lockjaw are also 3-1, wins against Duck, Quantum, the Bombshell, and a loss to Tombstone in the very first main event. And now Lockjaw, I think, is a bit unreliable because it's been on fire many times, it's lost drive many times. It's not a bad machine. I think it just needs to be more reliable. I don't think it's in the same tier as some of the other robots in this tournament, but it still makes the cut because they did have an impressive win against Bombshell, which is not a bad machine. They could have beaten Tombstone, but driving error they led them to be KO'd in one hit, and so for that reason Lockjaw is the 15th seed. Then, because of the Last Chance Rumble, which Discovery have hinted towards, I have chosen 6 robots that are 2-2 For the Last Chance Rumble, Minotaur's 3-3. So we have Cobalt at 2-2, Minotaur at 3-3, Duck at 2-2, Copperhead at 2-2, Gigabyte at 2-2, and Valkyrie at 2-1. We don't know what happened in Valkyrie's other fight. So the reason I've put Copperhead in and not some of the other robots is because in the program description thing on Battlebots website for the next episode, you can see a stick with the Copperhead mascot on it. Now, Copperhead probably isn't going to make the top 16, considering how many 3-in-1 machines there are, and how many other 2-in-2 machines there are, but because of that, I think they have a chance in the Last Chance Rumble, or whatever the selection committee are planning. In this hypothetical tournament, it is the Last Chance Rumble. So Valkyrie is in there. I really, really like Valkyrie. They had an epic win against Monsoon. They lost to Hypershock, and they won against another machine because I'm a great reporter. I can't remember who it was. Then we have Gigabyte, who beat Minotaur in an amazing contest. They beat Kronos as well in the first episode, which is not a bad machine at all. It was quite competitive. It could have gone either way. Gigabyte swung it. And they've lost Witch Doctor, which is a really, really good machine, and Huge. Now, Huge, I think it was really, really unlucky for Gigabyte that they got drawn up against Huge, because there's nothing they can do to it. The design of Huge just allows it to climb on top of Gigabyte and do damage there. Duck is here because it's really durable, and I think it should have won the Last Chance Rumble this year, and I think it has a good shot this year. Considering all of the spinners in this Rumble, though, I don't think Duck would do very well. You have Minotaur, obviously, they're 3-3, the Desperado tournament, whatever. They were hinted towards being in the bracket. I don't think they should be. I honestly don't think they should be in the bracket. So I'm going to put them in the Last Chance Rumble instead. And the winner of the Last Chance Rumble would be Cobalt, I think, simply because of the tactics that they use. I think they'd hang back a little bit. So Cobalt would be the 16th seed in this tournament. So in the first match, we'd have Bite Force against Cobalt. Now, we've already seen Cobalt take on a vertical spinner in Endgame. Bite Force is like a more efficient Endgame. We saw what happened. Cobalt got launched into the ceiling and back down. The wedge got ripped off. I don't think that Bite Force would lose this fight because of driving. But if Paul Ventimiglia were to make a driving mistake, I'm sure Cobalt would take advantage of it. But nevertheless, I'd give the win to the reigning champ. Then, in Black Dragon vs Tombstone, the 9th and 8th seeds. Now, Black Dragon has taken on a big horizontal spinner in Shredderator, and Tombstone has already lost to a vertical spinner last year in the top 16 bracket. That was Bombshell. And Black Dragon, I think, is a more efficient Bombshell. They've got big, sturdy wedge, which they can use against horizontal spinners, and they're really good drivers as well, so I'd give the fight to Black Dragon. Then, Bite Force versus Black Dragon. Now that would be a really, really good fight, and I sat here for ages trying to think of who would win, simply because of how efficient and how just brilliant it is at winning fights. I'd pick Bite Force to win this. And Black Dragon is not a bad competitor at all. I'm just not sure whether it would be able to get round to the side of Bite Force and actually do anything to it. However, they have exposed wheels which Bite Force could take off, so Bite Force, I think, would advance to the semi-finals. Deathroll versus Sawblaze, I'd have to give to Sawblaze, because of Deathroll is really, really small. I think Deathroll could just be scooped up by Sawblaze, and the damage could be done from there. So Sawblaze would win all of the control points, because Deathroll wouldn't be able to do anything. I'd say the aggression points would go to Sawblaze as well. And Deathroll, it's a shame, because it's a really, really good machine with a lot of potential, but if it were to go up against Sawblaze, I couldn't see them winning this fight. So, Scorpius versus Whiplash. Really, really good driving match. It nearly happened in the Remars tournament, but it didn't. It'd be great to see this. 2 articulated spinners, which could do equal amounts of damage, and it'd be really hard to decide a winner. But I think just because they have the lower wedge at the front and they've taken out some bigger machines, I'd give the win to Whiplash. Then we have a very similar match, Whiplash versus Sawblaze. And Sawblaze could try to keep Whiplash at bay with those things at the front, the prongs. But Whiplash is has a really good driver. Could flip Sawblaze over, and Sawblaze does have trouble self-righting, so I'd give the win to Whiplash there. On the other side of the bracket, I'd give the win to Witch Doctor over Lockjaw, because Lockjaw is being really unreliable and Witch Doctor's killing everything in its path. So I'd give the win to Witch Doctor there. Lots of exposed wheels, which Witch Doctor could take advantage of. Then we have Huge versus Hypershock, and I really honestly don't know who would win this fight if it happened. Will Bales is a really good driver and could get to the sides and push Huge around, but Huge is really good at just keeping its weapon faced at its opponent. However, because Huge hasn't really faced machines with amazing drivers, apart from free shipping maybe, I'd give the win to probably Hypershock, because of Will Bales and his driving skills and how much quicker Hypershock is than Huge. They could circle it like they did with Warrior Dragon coming for the attack. Then Hypershock versus Witch Doctor, and I'd give the win to Witch Doctor because of all of the exposed wheels. They just have the much more powerful weapon, equally good driver, I think. Very underrated driver in Micah lately, and the weapon is just much more powerful. So if Hypershock gets a hit on Witch Doctor, yes, it would flip it over, but Witch Doctor has a self-righter, which we know works, which can flip it back over. They'd be up and running again without much damage. If Hypershock took a hit from Witch Doctor though, probably some of the wheels would be taken off or damaged beyond repair, and the spinner would hit with the ground, possibly flipping the robot back over, but the self-righter doesn't work. We saw that in its fight against Breakerbox, so I think Witch Doctor would be able to take advantage from there, and we'd have another Bite Force versus Hypershock situation. Down there, Hydra versus Yeti. There's only one way for this fight to go in my opinion, and that's for Hydra, because of Yeti's ground clearance. Hydra's flipper is powerful enough to rip parts off the robots, like wheels, maybe even take the forks off as well. Yeti, it's a very destructive machine, but if its drum is going to grind Hydra or try to grind Hydra, then I don't see it winning, because it needs to be quick and have a quick impact. Son of Waiachi versus Railgun Max, I'd give to Son of Waiachi, because Railgun Max aren't exactly that reliable. They did keep their weapon spinning for the whole fight against free shipping, which is really impressive, but I think the first hit would have to count, and if Railgun Max were to flip Son of Waiachi over on the first hit, then good for them, that'd be amazing. But because they don't really have a big wedge like Brutus or something, then Son of Waiachi would take the hit, get it back up to speed, and then slowly drive around Railgun Max and just pick parts off it. So just because of the sheer power, I'd go for Son of Waiachi. And this is interesting, because now we have two Waiachi machines facing each other. If both of these machines just went at it 100%, I'd give the win to Hydra, even if Son of Waiachi was spinning. But that might not happen. If this fight actually happens, Hydra versus Son of Waiachi, then Team Waiachi could do anything they wanted. If they knew who they were going to face in the next round, Witch Doctor, they might sort of make Son of Waiachi go through, make it look like that. I'm not accusing Team Waiachi of anything, I'm just saying that could happen. It's happened before in sports. But if both of these machines were to go at it and try and completely destroy each other, then I think Hydra would win, just because Son of Waiachi cannot self-right. So then we have Bite Force versus Whiplash over that. Now, Bite Force and Whiplash, they met in the semi-finals last year. Whiplash got absolutely mullered. They met again in the live stream a few months ago. Whiplash got absolutely mullered, so this time they're probably also going to get absolutely mullered as well. The reigning champ advances to the final. Then we'd have Witch Doctor versus Hydra. Now, Witch Doctor is really impressive. They have a self-righter, really powerful weapon. They're really quick, Not sure if Hydra could catch them. Hydra could send them flying though, but Witch Doctor is really reliable and can ping back onto its wheels, even if it doesn't need to use the Self-Writer. So if they do manage to get underneath Hydra, then it's bye-bye to Hydra, I think. So I think for Witch Doctor versus Bite Force in the hypothetical final of this tournament, I would have to give it to Witch Doctor because of just how much more powerful than Bite Force they are. If they do keep their weapon pointed at Bite Force, then they would damage anything, any part of Bite Force that they touched. And maybe I am overrating them a bit, but they're much, much improved this season. Anyone who doesn't like Witch Doctor, you know who you are. You have to agree that no one expected that they do this well this season, and I can actually see them winning the tournament. Thank you very, very much for watching this. Bye-bye.